Welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about how to take data whenever it comes in and turn the data that we have into different categorical variables so that we can better use it as we move along as analysts. Again, the data that we're going to work with on this one is the customers to data. And whenever you bring it in, you'll notice, a few things. One, don't forget if it just has the hashtags in here, double left click, it'll open it up for you. Same thing over here in column M, you can double left click and it'll open up to where you can see that stuff too. All the things that we're talking about right now are in chapters 2.4 and 2.5 of your textbook. And you're going to be using examples 2.4 through 2.8 to guide you through this. First part of it is just taking and transforming the values that we have from a category into other values, or what we also refer to as category reduction. First step is that in cell O1, I want you to type in personal referral, because what oftentimes happens to us, and yours is going to come in as blank right now when you type that in. I've already put a formula in here so that you can see it in a minute. But again, in O1, type in personal referral. Personal referrals are the richest form of getting new customers. And so what we want to be able to do is say, is this customer, did it come from a referral or did it not come from a referral? So in the cell O2, you'll type in an if statement. The if statement works this way. An if statement says equals if, and then you have to open it with the parentheses here. If N2, if N2 equals referral, and if it's when you're using an if statement, if it's a mathematical value that's in that cell, you can just put the cell in it. However, if it's text, you have to put what you're trying to match inside the quotes, all right? You see here, I'm trying to find referral, which means that I have to put it in exactly as the way that it's spelled in referral. If you use a lowercase or you mess up the spelling, it's going to reject it because the Excel is just looking for a string of letters, and their string of letters has to exactly match this. And after the column, it says that if N2 exactly matches the string referral, it says return the string yes, otherwise return the string no. Now you could put this as anything you want. You could put it return as a 1 or return as a 0. Just remember that if you want it to say something specific, like a string of letters, it has to be in the quotes. All right. Once I've done that, I hit enter, and then I can take and double click and it will fill in the rest of the data, and that will complete step B for you. The next thing that we're going to talk about is binning. And in binning, we're really trying to take data and transform it into equal categories. And what we're talking about in this one is, in particular, we're looking at the frequency of purchases. So the number of orders here, if we could take and separate that into 5 categories. 5 categories would say, our lowest category of people who, we're selling to are category 1. The second highest category is a 2. You get it all the way up to a 5. We can do that using a percentile function. So what we're going to do out here in cell W, type in frequency range in cell W, and then I want you to create a table using this. So in V2, write 20th percentile, V3 40th percentile. You see how it goes here. And then once you've done that, your table should look similar to this. Let me pull this over so that you can see that there's nothing else there. Now we're going to use the percentile function. The percentile function says that let's look at the value that is at the 20th percentile of all of our frequencies that we have over here. So what we're going to do is we are going to take and create percentile values. I'm going to just click on this. Again, yours is going to be blank. And what we want is we want to go back over to number of orders that have been made this past year. And in this percentile equals percentile of K2 through K201. And we want that to be the 20th percentile. All right, again, what we're doing right now is we're trying to find the values, the 20th percentile value of all the orders. I hit enter. Now I want the 40th percentile. 40th percentile is, again, K2 through K201, because that's all of our data. 40th percentile, you get it. Go ahead and finish that off for 60th percentile and the 80th percentile. Now the last thing that we're going to do once we've finished those things is we're going to create a new column called frequency, all right, which means that in Q1, type in frequency, and then we're going to, based on our data here, we are going to use a nested if function to use the table that we just created and put these customers into either the lowest one all the way to the highest number 5 categories. Here's what a nested if statement looks like. First of all, don't look at everything else down here at the back yet. It just says if K2, the number of orders, is less than or equal to W, and don't make sure that you put in here the dollar sign because it'll lock it down for you. So if K2, the number of orders, is less than 4, enter the number 1, all right? And you can see here that in this case, K2 is less than 4, so enter 1. That's our lowest category. Remember in an if statement that what happened next was we tell it if it is this, enter that, otherwise enter something else. Well, we can use a nested if statement now to go on to the next part, because it says if it's less than, enter that. Otherwise, we're going to enter another if. If K2 is less than or equal to W3, which is this, okay, enter the category 2. Otherwise, again, a nest of ifs. If K2 is less than W4, enter 3. Otherwise, if K2 is less than W5, enter 4. And then now at that point, the only other values that are left are things that are in the category 5. We have used in each if statement, we've used a parentheses to open the argument. And so at the end, we need to make sure we close out all the arguments as well. And you see if I highlight this, you can see that these parentheses go together and the different parentheses match up along the way. All right. Hit enter. Again, once you've done that, you can double left click and that will fill in the rest of the data for you. That takes care of binning. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at category reduction. In category reduction, we're going to create a table that looks similar to 2.8 in cells Z1 through A4. What we're doing is we want to look at the spending of our members, and if the members have spent, down to $0, they're bronze, $250 gets them to the silver level, and $1,000 gets them to the gold level. Again, so we're talking about spending. So whenever we get to this, we're going to go open up a new category here. So in U1, type in membership tier. And then we can use a vlookup function. I know you've used that before. And so the vlookup function says that let's look up J2, spending in 2021, and the array that I'm looking at is just from this table, which is Z2 to AA4. All right, make sure you put your dollar signs in there to lock them down. And return the second column. The second column is bronze, silver, or gold. And then we're going to match that on true. Hit enter. Again, from here, you can double left click. We've created a new category here of membership tier, bronze, gold, and silver. That'll match us up. Next thing I want you to do is to look at dummy variables. Dummy variables come into play oftentimes whenever we're using multiple regression, where we need to take a categorical variable and then turn it into either a 1 or a 0. And in this case, what we're doing is we're looking at college grad. And in college grad, in cell P1, type in college grad. And what we want is we want to transform our college graduate column, which is over here, where if it's a college graduate, we want this now to be a 1. Otherwise, we want it to be a 0 if they didn't graduate college. We can do that with an if statement, equals if E2 equals the string yes. We can enter either a 1 or a 0. All right, so again, we do not have to put the quotes around 1 or around 0 in this case because they're numerical. So that's another use of our if statement. You can double left click. That will fill in the rest of the data for you here. Very last one is a mathematical transformation. And a mathematical transformation is something that Excel is very useful for. Because in this case, what we're trying to look at is we want to see the spending difference for each of the customers from 2021 and 2020. So in cell R1, type in spending difference. And what we're looking at are these two values here, the spending in 2021 and the spending in 2020. We do that with just a simple mathematical function equals. And if we put in equals and J2, what happened in 2021, minus what happened in 2020, and we hit enter, this pops up and says we had a $46 difference, which was lower in 2021 than there was in 2020. Again, you can double left click on that. Now we have we have made several new columns here of data that we could use that makes sense to us, which means we've taken all of our previous data, turned into categorical or reduced categories to work with. All right, good luck, and wait till we get a chance to tune in for the next video.